Last night in chat, I was asking if they'd started fighting yet, and today, the fights have begun. What do you do when shit's not going your way? You go on Twitter and you post through it. You always post through it. I'm gonna get my food and use the restroom. Hold on one sec. President Trump offers Elon Musk a timeline of events. Elon Musk time as a government employee concludes 5/28/25, May 28th. About a week ago? As my scheduled time as a special government employee comes to an end, I would like to thank President real Donald Trump for the opportunity to reduce wasteful spending. The Doge mission will only strengthen over time as it becomes a way of life throughout the government. Yesterday. I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. He says. Ketamine stare. Ooh, Donald Trump. Felon stare. The drug addict versus the campaign funds embezzler.
Well, but if they picked him, I would have won Pennsylvania.
We watched this hearing, or not hearing, the press conference. Is that what you call these? Trump responds to Elon Musk's criticism of the bill, says Elon is upset that the electric vehicle mandate is being cut. He's a druggie too, no? Isn't he an amphetamine freak? Trump? I don't think so. The way Trump talks about drugs, Trump legitimately seems like one of those guys who you're like, oh, bro, we should go like drinking or like do some fucking fun shit or whatever. And they're like, actually, I don't actually ever like to do anything that changes my state of mind. I like to be sober because if I don't want to change my mind with a chemical ever. He's like, Trump legitimately comes off as one of those guys. Elon responded to Trump's interview denying that he stalled the bill ahead of time. Trump, so Elon says, false, this bill was never shown to me, even once, and was passed in the dead of night so fast that almost no one in Congress could even read it. Elon, in a string of tweets, starts sharing Trump's old tweets and statements. Where is this guy today? We could use the balanced budget amendment. Politicians don't have the will to cut spending. I cannot believe the Republicans are extending the debt ceiling. I'm a Republican and I am embarrassed. We need a balanced budget amendment because Congress has no fiscal Ooh. Elon went as far as saying Trump would have lost the election. Would have? Oof, you mean would have. Yikes. Lost the election without him. Without me, Trump would have lost the election. Ooh, Dems would control the House and Republicans be in a 51-49 in the Senate. Such ingratitude, ungratefulness. Oh my God. Elon goes on to saying he supports EV/solar incentive cuts, something which Trump said he was upset about. Elon then calls for the reconciliation bill to be killed in the Senate. Keep the EV/solar incentives cuts in the bill, but also cut all the crazy spending increases in the big ugly bill. Oh, the big ugly bill from to bub, so that America doesn't go bankrupt. Elon then calls for the reconciliation bill to be killed in the Senate. Elon is about to very quickly realize he has absolutely no political sway whatsoever. Ever. Absolutely none, but hold on. Elon Musk asks, it's time for a new political party in America. Cringe. He's never doing this, but okay. Remember when Elon did the vote on his platform to ask if he should step down as the CEO of Tesla? Or is it the CEO of X? I forget. I think it was of Tesla, wasn't it? Or maybe it was X. I don't remember. It was X. Or Twitter at the time, maybe. Trump suggests that Elon has Trump derangement syndrome.
They leave.
Oh, yeah, this thing. Trump then drops multiple tweets saying Elon Musk went crazy Trump has been on Truth Social. Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do, and he just went crazy. The easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. Ooh, does that mean like SpaceX and stuff too? Or I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. No conservative will admit that that's literally Trump talking about how openly corrupt he is, and he's surprised people aren't as corrupt as him. I'm surprised Biden didn't personally attack Elon Musk like I will once he becomes an enemy. Funny. Elon Musk, time to drop the really big truth bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Oh, and Elon comes hard hitting with he's always his big hitter is to call the person a pedophile. He loves that one. So much so that he must have children, because who the else always has their go-to as a pedophile. Have a nice day. Mark this post for the future. The truth will come out. The real meme here is that, so does this mean that you knew that like Donald Trump was involved with Epstein the whole time, but you just didn't say anything until it was politically expedient for you to do so? I don't mind Elon turning against me, but he should have done so months ago. This is one of the greatest bills ever presented to Congress. It's like a continuing resolution, isn't it? It's not even a real budget yet, is it? Why are you so cringe? It's a record cut in expenses. What? It's literally an increase in the deficit. $1.6 trillion from what? And the biggest tax cut ever given. If this bill doesn't pass, there will be a 68% tax increase and things far worse than that. It didn't create this mess. I'm just here to fix it. This puts our country on a path of greatness. Make America great again. In light of the president's statement about cancellation of my government contract, SpaceX will begin decommissioning its Dragon spacecraft immediately. He's not doing that. He's getting emotional. That's kind of funny, though. We have somebody trying to come in and solve the problem. As we all know, there's only one way to truly fix this problem, and that's with peace and love. From a Lex Friedman podcast. We've got Ye coming out, giving his wonderful political takes. Bros, please no. Hug emoji. We love you both so much. Oh, as I've said, Asmund Slop and all the gamer bros and all the Silicon Valley losers will all come out and defend Elon. Ain't nobody want a fat retarded bill, LOL. Matt Gaetz, nobody likes or cares about him anymore. I'm fully with Ye on this. We've got input from a random Twitter user, Peter Twinklage. Those white South Africans are getting sent to El Salvador. The CIA getting ordered to assassinate Elon after dealing with Doge for months.
Yes!
Jesus. Elon at the next Tesla meeting, but ICE shows up.
Georgie, what button?
Rest that man, he's out of control.
Where's the button?
Good luck, ladies.
Guards! Guards!
Hands up or I'll shoot you in the face.
Guards!
Oh, shit.
Guards!
The desk. Press the button, Georgie. What button?
We've got Asmongold. Expect to see him, assuming the Elon and Trump fight continues. Asmongold will be completely and totally changing his view on everything relating to Trump and might even start to rewrite history with him, as he now says that Trump was always a horrible person, or as Trump was inept and could never fix the budget, and that Doge was amazing and Trump couldn't do anything with it, and basically all the criticisms people have had of Trump, Asmongold might start to slowly have. Also, I can't believe that this is a thing, that it's just become acceptable now. I remember laughing at people who did this like a couple years ago or started to do this. I can't believe it's become acceptable now to just start posting AI summaries. And like, that's like your argument. That's actually that's insane to me that that's a thing now that you can just do. Like, and people take you seriously. I don't know, but whatever. Also, for my FBI guy that's listening to me, I do not endorse. There should be no ICE or assassinating or FBI anything bad stuff. I'm just showing memes, okay? Just want to say that, okay? Oh, suddenly the entire tech world is about to come around to my position on the tariffs. That's good. The Trump tariffs will cause a recession in the second half of this year. Don't know why he was silent on this for so much before, but please go look at libs of TikTok trying to tweet through this entire thing like it's not happening. He froze. My guy hasn't moved for 40 minutes. Just in, DHS arrested Marcos Lopez, sheriff for Osceola County, Florida. The Dems controlled Maine House just voted to kill a bill requiring photo ID to... Oh, nothing. Nothing about any of this. Nice. Breaking. Convoy of Cybertrucks filled with Muskites headed for Washington, D.C. This is a parody account, but Doge successfully cuts U.S. national debt from $32 trillion to $37 trillion. Breaking. Elon Musk says yes to a post suggesting Trump should be impeached and replaced by J.D. Vance. Oof, we've got unfollows going down. Elon Musk unfollows senior Trump advisor Stephen Miller. Uh-oh. He still follows his wife, though. And he unfollowed Charlie Kirk. Oh, no. Imagine if Elon bans all of them from X, and then Trump bans all of them from Truth Social. We've got one of his many baby mamas tweeting. Hey, Donald Trump, let me know if you need any breakup advice.
That's all. Listen to everybody. Nobody believes in you. What are you prepared to do about it? Don't let no one come into your house, take your meal, do what you need to do today. I'm not nervous. I'm just telling you. That's all. Listen to everybody. Nobody.
Had you tweets?
There's finally a rift happening in the truest love in American history. That between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Remember back in February? I love real Donald Trump as much as a straight man can love another man. Direct quote from Elon Musk. They were hugging. They were at rallies together. They were having a great time. They were going to take on the world, okay? Donald Trump was going to get the economy moving again, and Elon Musk was going to cut spending so that America could afford it. The combination of the tariff revenue and the tax cuts and the Doge cuts, we're going to get America back on fiscal track. And then, just 4 months into Doge, Elon Musk was basically shown the door. Thank you. But time to go. He was basically sent packing. Now, part of this could have been his own decision, as his own companies were dealing with more and more struggle. Part of this could be disagreements internally. Again, it's worth noting he showed up to this final meeting with a black eye and bruising on his face. He says it's
Now, have you ever been punched by a 5-year-old before?
his kid punched him in the face, but there's reports from Steve Bannon that Elon Musk got in a physical altercation with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
Now, you also have to be careful with what Bannon says, because I believe that Bannon doesn't get along with the current Trump camp, right? He's kind of an outsider now, right? Ever since he got cast out in 2018, 19? Was it after Roy Moore? I believe Roy Moore, correct me if I'm wrong, I wasn't Vyvanced up yet. Roy Moore was a big candidate that I think Bannon pushed onto Trump, and then Trump pushed on other Republicans that ended up getting fucked. And I think afterwards, because of a lot of electoral issues, I think Bannon slowly kind of got pushed away from the Trump camp. So he's kind of an outsider at the moment. He still likes Trump. He might like Trump, but he might attack people around him. Remember, that would be your political incentive, is to get back in. You only attack people around Trump, maybe more than you would otherwise, but you don't attack Trump himself.
Over the Treasury, over the spending. I mean, there's some real theory here that something's going on. It's black eye and bruising. So anyway, they gave him a golden key and said, come back anytime. But Elon Musk walked away wearing his Dogefather outfit. And that was that. And Elon Musk was separating from the government back to his own job. But it didn't take long after being shown the door that he started.
How did Miller remain in the Trump camp? Miller is one of the most loyal. What would it be? The Garble or whatever? Who was the propaganda minister? It wasn't Himmler. It was Garble. Miller is the Goebbels to Trump's Hitler, 100%.
commenting on the government, specifically on the big, beautiful bill that Trump has been laser focused on pushing, as much as focused as Trump can be. Trump has been pushing to get this massive, massive, massive tax cut and spending cut bill, the big, beautiful bill, through the House and through Congress. And finally, Elon Musk, after hinting at it for a little while and voicing some slight discomfort, finally today out and out said it. He called the bill, I just want to be clear, I want to get the words right. He called the bill a disgusting abomination. Specifically, I'm sorry, but I can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. And
that's a big attack against Donald Trump. Because remember, this is like Donald Trump's crowning achievement. What did we get from Biden in the first 100 days? We were promised, I think we were promised 100 million shots, 100 million vaccinations by day 100, and we got it by day 50. We got, was the American Rescue Plan? There's no way that was in the first 100 days, was it? March 11th, 2021. Holy shit. It was within the first 100 days, wasn't it? Damn. That was a big stimulus. That was a $1.9 trillion bill. $1 trillion bill. Ooh, and that was with the majority, remember, that we got in the Senate with two blue Georgia Senate seats. 2 of them. God damn. I think there was more than I remember hearing this when we were canvassing. There was more than $1 billion, I think, spent advertising on ads in Georgia for those 2 Senate elections. It was insane. It was insane. Oh, so in the first 100 days, I said that he did 100 million in 50 days instead of 100 days. By day 100, they might have gotten to 200 million vaccines. Holy shit. Oh, the pullout of Afghanistan was within the first 100 days as well. And we stopped with the Yemen civil war stuff as well. This was good. Oh, no. These were the pledges. Sorry. Okay. The pullout wasn't quite that soon. And the U.S. involvement in the Yemeni civil war. The United States remains in support of Saudi Arabian backing in the Yemeni civil war, although involvement is reduced somewhat. I thought we completely stopped the participating in the drone attacks and everything with Biden under that. I wonder what this means. Does this just mean that we, like, quote unquote support them, like, in morale? Because I thought that we ended the drone support that we had, unless they're counting us like bombing them in exchange for the bombing of ships coming through. I'm pretty sure that it says end, yeah, but this says unfulfilled. Jesus. Well, yeah, Biden's first 100 days are pretty good.
I responded somewhere with a handshake emoji because I agree. You know, Elon Musk, it took you a long time to say anything. This is the bill you were supporting 1 week ago, but he did finally say it. This bill is horrendous. This bill massively blows out our already massively blown out deficit. It leaves us, anyone young and anyone in the future.
Remember, you have different Trump camps. You've got different supporters. And one of the reasons why Trump was able to win this election so dominatingly, or in such a dominating fashion, was because there were these new constituencies of like Trump voters that never existed before. One of the big ones being all of these San Fran, Silicon Valley types and your tech bros, your Tom Bilyeu's, right? The people that I want to talk to. And the one saving grace for all of these people, the one saving grace for all these people for Trump was that he was going to reduce the deficit.
Massively blows out our already massively blown out deficit. It leaves us, anyone young and anyone in the future, with even more problems and even less money to go around for the government. We're gonna have more and more interest payments to pay for tax cuts for rich people right now. It's a horrendous bill. You know, Elon Musk has done a lot of damage providing cloud cover for the bill and supporting the bill. But now that he's out, I guess he's willing to say it, which I respect because as someone who was pissed off.
Sorry, I just realized why I brought all that up. All that to say that Trump didn't really have any major legislative achievements in his first term, except for the tax bill. And now this is like his next big legislative achievement that he's trying to go for. Two big major pieces of legislation, I guess, for 2 different presidential terms. And so Elon coming out and shitting on his big, beautiful bill that he's nicknamed, that's a pretty direct attack on Donald Trump.
cover for the bill and supporting the bill. But now that he's out, I guess he's willing to say it, which I respect, because as someone who has pissed off like all of the left side of America, he is now risking pissing off all the right side of America and being left with, I guess I respect the ability to say it.
Why do people care so much about the deficit? Because Republicans tell them to care about it.
For this particularly, especially because Trump has been so supportive of it, it is a pretty big line to draw from Elon's side. Now, he'll say, and I think everyone that has criticized the bill will say, that even though Trump is nonstop supporting it, that it's not Trump's fault. Trump doesn't know the bad stuff in the bill.
Do you think there's a window for Democrats to get Elon on our side again now that he's fracturing with Trump? That's a hard one to say. The problem is that I don't like to make this accusation because it's kind of a personal attack, and I can't really truly know for sure. But I do start to wonder, and I think it's fair to wonder, if Elon has some kind of drug problem that is affecting his behavior. I kind of wonder the same about Jordan Peterson. Yeah, it's just hard to say. Listen to him talk about the rocket stuff and everything before. He actually, I don't know why that never got linked to me when I was asking, is there any videos of Elon speaking intelligently? When he was talking outside that launch site to that one dude, he was way more coherent there than any of the wacky, wild, and crazy shit that he's been on recently. The only problem with bringing him back to our side is that a person who, there's some quote here, and I don't remember the quote, but it's like somebody that can be whatever so easily is also somebody who can be whatever so easily, right? Like if you can make a friend as easily, or if they switch sides one way incredibly quickly, they could switch sides the other way. There's some profound quote there, somebody have it, but...
Everyone will say that Trump doesn't know what he's doing, but we have to stop it. And in fact, it's the evil rhinos in Congress that are writing it, and they want to let him off the hook. But and he continued. So Elon Musk continued. It was like, Congress is making America bankrupt, and it will massively increase the already gigantic budget deficit to 2.5 trillion and burden American citizens with a crushingly unsustainable debt. And I'm sorry.
Am I misremembering this, or didn't the GOP say a Biden bill was too long and they wouldn't vote for it unless they made it less pages? Possibly, but remember, the Republicans have no principles and no values. They will say anything. They will say anything to win. Yeah, and they'll say things that sound good. When you're talking to Republican lawmakers, you just have to view them as, what was her name? Was it Jane? It wasn't Jane, was it?
You're going back to rehab today, now.
Look, as it so happens, we were
just about to reduce the deficit, and we were talking about cutting spending right now.
Yeah, and I was going to tell you.
Yeah, we've got the biggest, tax cut. But
You have been clean for 18 months, Jane. Why?
All you do is increase the deficit over and over again, and you've never done anything to control spending.
I backslid, okay?
Okay, well, there was a war, there were terrorist attacks. What do you want us to do? Jesus, all right?
What?
And then meanwhile, this is like the Democrats watching Republicans talking to the American voters. Like, what? How many trillions in Iraq and Afghanistan? Largest budget deficit ever under Trump? Wait, are they believing this? Are they believing this? And she's like, we're just trying to save money with the American people, and we're going to go back to the gold standard. And
like I do it on purpose.
Like it's hard. The Democrats make us do it sometimes too.
Lying to me. Shacking up and using with this scumbag, this loser.
You're doing but you're still spending so much money, aren't you? Like, what's going on, guys? You said you were going to cut the debt, and it didn't happen, right?
Is Dad, and you don't know the first thing about him. We rehab every.
You don't understand. And this is Stephen Miller being like, no, you don't understand. Actually, the new big beautiful bill is actually deficit neutral. It's actually going to reduce spending. The CBO is lying.
His idea.
Okay.
You talk about rehab? Well, geez, isn't that wonderful?
I thought you were going to cut the debt and the deficit. Why has it never happened?
Thank you for not being judgmental 24 hours a day.
We're just doing our best, okay? It's tough times, guys. Remember COVID? Trump had COVID, all right?
Because that's exactly what I need, to be judged all the time.
Okay. You know what you need?
Fine. We'll elect you a second term, okay? We're sorry about the 34 felony convictions.
Tell you exactly what you need.
But like this is legitimately it. It's just like, it's unhinged. It's so stupid, but whatever.
Sorry, this is just true. As I've mentioned, I read a lot of Substacks from, and at least probably over half of them are from like Wall Street finance Republicans. Or like not even Wall Street, but like people who are like investors, or they know this shit. They're in and out this shit, and they were like supportive of some kind of changing agenda. They at least had some ideological, not ideological reason for giving Trump a chance. All of them, almost all of them have slowly but surely been like, had to admit all these economic decisions are terrible. All of them. Dude, it's so funny. Like one by one, they've all written some sort of op-ed being like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Doesn't add up. And this bill has been a real unifier for at least that crowd of like, no, there's just like one guy specifically, it stuck out to me where he basically said, I thought they would be able to get a handle on the spending. It turns out they're going to go full.
Also, let me just please, okay, as the only person on the internet that cares about how anything works, okay? I'm sorry. Just, is this a Republican or is this, I said I would start looking everybody up. Thomas Massey, Ballotpedia, is a Republican, okay, member of the U.S. House, Kentucky's 4th Congressional District. Okay. The House has a 72-hour rule which requires the bill to be posted 72 hours before passage, but the Speaker circumvented this rule with a manager's amendment that rewrote and added substantial portions of the bill as it went through the Rules Committee the night the bill was passed. There's another House rule which requires a day to pass before voting on a bill after the Rules Committee has modified it. Would you believe the House voted to suspend that so-called same-day rule? This means the final language of the bill was released only a few minutes before debate began. The vote on that rule changed, and the vote on the bill followed within a couple of hours. Actually, never mind. Hold on. I won't criticize this guy. This guy's actually talking about the lawmaking process. Interesting. 99% of the time, a lawmaker tells you this bill just came out, we didn't have time to read it. That is a f***ing lie. All of these people have an office full of staffers, and their job is to always be reading this legislation. No lawmaker in Congress reads the bills they pass. They don't have the time to, and we don't need them to. They have staff that go through and pick apart all of the legislation to make sure that it does what the elected representative wants it to do, and to make sure that it comports to the elected representative's values, and it's the staffers' jobs to deliver that information to the lawmaker and to tell them, hey, this is what the bill does, roughly, so that you have an idea of what's going on, and, we think that this is something you would obviously support, and here are some parts that you might have an issue with, and you can make that decision. That's how all of these things work. Any bill that comes out of Congress has gone through rules committees. None of the lines are new. Like, this has been talked about and debated and hashed out and gone over a million times between different offices. But if it is the case that significant portions of the bill were rewritten and then House rules were overridden to shove these things through committees overnight, and then another rule was overwritten to vote fast, it is possible that stuff got in there that people hadn't read in time. That could be possible. But generally, that would be an exceptional thing, just as a heads up. When people, 99% of the time, when people in Congress are like, we haven't had a chance to read the bill, they don't read bills ever. They don't do that. Their staffers have read it. This is literally what they get paid to do. But, okay. Also, if you didn't have time to read it, then why'd you fucking vote for it if that's going to be a problem? Okay.
Full steam ahead until they hit the wall. Until nobody in the world will buy American debt anymore. They're gonna spin off the rails. And that's what it's looking like. So Elon Musk is calling this out. Worth mentioning, James Chanos, one of those guys, I don't know if he's Republican, but he's a longtime finance guy, well-read thinker, pointed out this is the same bill when he was praising it last week. Very worth noting that Elon Musk has only started talking about this after he was kicked out. And by the way, they're forcing this through with 0 Democratic votes, is my understanding. So they need most Republicans, almost every Republican, to vote for it. And there's a few holdouts.
Why bother having elected representatives then? Why not just have highly educated technocrats and academics in power? Wouldn't that be a better system? Well, because the representatives are there to pass legislation that you vote for them to pass. The staffers are just there to do the interpretation for them, right?
One of them is Rand Paul, who is like the most vocal and fiscally conservative against this from the beginning, well before Elon spoke out.
Senator, what do you need to see in this bill to be on board?
The problem is it's asking conservatives like myself to raise the debt ceiling $5 trillion. That's historic. No one's ever raised the debt ceiling that much. It will be a record for Congress to raise the debt $5 trillion. But also it indicates that this year the deficit will be over $2 trillion, but it means they're anticipating close to $3 trillion for the next year. It's really a slap in the face at those of us who are excited about Elon Musk and Doge and all the cuts. Where are the cuts? If the cuts are real, why are we going to borrow $5 trillion? So what I proposed was this. I put forward a proposal and we voted on it to raise the debt ceiling for 3 months. If the promises are real, I'll vote to raise it every 3 months. So I put forward that amendment. Unfortunately, I only got a handful of votes, but I think that's the way to do it. If you raise it $5 trillion for 2 years, you just put it on the back burner, but we're going to coast through that money and we're going to spend it all. And that's not what the people want. That's not what our supporters want.
All right.
Yeah, so I don't like the 3-month debt ceiling bill.
I haven't kept up with this as much, obviously, because I've been out of town for 2 weeks. I thought they were asking for a $4 trillion raise. Is it $5 trillion now? What the
Going to be insane chaos that gets nothing done for our already stymied system. But I do agree that a $5 trillion raise.
Senator Rand Paul joins.
Apparently, this is a cut from that Rand Paul interview.
Now, and sir, it's good to see you again. You've been very popular these last couple of days. I want to start with the fact that you now have Elon Musk on your side, which was.
So when Marjorie Taylor Greene says she didn't know about the no regulation on AI for 10 years, if she had, she wouldn't have voted for OBBB. Is that an example of something being shoveled in last minute? I doubt it. That's probably something that all of her staffers knew about beforehand and that she was communicated with beforehand, but they thought it would pass anyway or whatever. That'd be my guess.
It was a really big tweet today. I think applies a lot of the pressure that you're trying to apply. He calls the bill an abomination. What specifically has you so turned off about this bill specifically? This morning you essentially said you want to cut 6% from basically every part of the budget, but what is it about this bill that you don't like so much?
Well, let's start with what I like about the bill. What I like about the bill, the tax cuts. I voted for them in 2017. I wish they were permanent, and that's a big part of the bill. But if that's all that the bill was, I'm not a yes, a hell yes. I'm all in.
This, for whatever Rand Paul, I think he tries to call himself a libertarian or whatever. Being in favor of increasing taxes for the sake of increasing taxes is just as stupid as being in favor of reducing taxes for the sake of reducing taxes. You don't want to reduce taxes, you want to destroy the government. You shouldn't allow people to say things like this. Rand Paul, when you say that you're happy that this reduces taxes, don't you really mean that you just want this to lead to the destruction of the federal government? Why would you want to reduce taxes when we don't have enough money to pay any of our fucking bills? Doesn't make any sense, but whatever.
And for that, I'm for spending cuts. I don't think there are enough spending cuts in that, and I'm worried about that. I wish there were more.
What is this? Like, I wonder, like, this guy doesn't have any big business or anything, right? He's not even like personally. I wish that these people were bribed and shit as much as you retards think they are, because at least then they would have a good reason for the stupid shit that they do and believe in. Like, if I were to find out, like, oh, Rand Paul, he's worth $150 million. Oh, okay, I get it, but he's not. Like, he's not even making money off of it. He's actually just like stupid all on his own. Jesus.
But I still would support the tax cuts and some spending cuts if they weren't forcing conservatives to vote to raise the debt ceiling $5 trillion. That concerns me because when you extend the debt ceiling, this will be the largest increase in the debt ceiling ever. This will be the first time that Republicans alone will be responsible for the debt. The debt will be basically owned by Republicans, and I'm not for borrowing $5 trillion over the next 2 years. I've told the president if they will separate the debt ceiling vote out, they very may well have my vote on this. But so far the negotiations are slow. They seem to be picking up a little bit in the last couple of days, so I'm still hopeful that we can come to an agreement.
I mean, fiscally, I watched you on.
Actually, yeah, that's true. Somebody said his job is to represent Kentuckians. Sure, and those people are even more poor. But yeah, is Rand Paul really from Kentucky? Rand Paul, Ballotopedia, from the U.S. Senate from Kentucky. He is. Isn't Ron Paul is from Texas, right? Or is he from Kentucky? Why do I feel like Ron Paul's from Texas? Oh, he is. Okay. Rand Paul from Kentucky. Okay. Every time we say, I'm going to start doing this. I told you before for like geography, you want to learn geography, anytime you hear the name of a country or a city or anything in history, you should just look up where it is on a map. A map is so important and nice because it makes you understand. It just makes you understand some things, because everything that happens in our physical universe is causal. Things are caused by other things. And that also extends to things like history or conflict or war or whatever else, and geography can play a role in things. Like if I were to tell you, like, who is Israel historically fought with the most? Like, let's say that you didn't actually know the answer to that at all, but you knew your geography at least, right? You'd be like, well, who's right next to them? Egypt, and then there's Jordan, and then there's Syria, and then there's Lebanon. I guess maybe those 4 countries, and you'd be basically right. Not really Lebanon, but the other 3, yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I guess kind of Lebanon, yeah. No, Lebanon, yeah. And then conversely, if somebody were to ask you, do you know where Syria is? And it's like, fuck, not really. But they fought a lot with Israel, so they're probably bordered with Israel. So they're probably somewhere over there, But same thing, I'm going to try doing this with, I think IRI can't I'm Really Important name every single senator and representative, and he knows, like, the districts they come from and everything. So anytime I bring these people up, I should just look them up here, just so I start to get into my brain more. And you should do that too, I think.
CNBC this morning, you didn't say one thing that I didn't think was very sympathetic. I thought you made a lot of great points.
That logic doesn't work for the U.S. though. Listen, I think we will read it again tonight, okay? There's more history stuff I want to study. One question that I really want to know the answer to, I always hear so much about Vietnam, and it was so horrible. And maybe it was, but I feel like we never, ever, ever talk about Korea. Did anybody ever talk about Korea? Like, the Korean War was in the 50s, and I feel like that was probably a good thing. No? South Korea is like one of the most successful, crazy, like, amazing countries on the planet. Like, is there a world where we win Vietnam and now you have like a South Vietnam that's like South Korea? I don't know. I'm not sure what happened or what the difference was there or whatever, but who knows? Well, somebody knows, but...
points. I know you're getting hammered by the president for this, but I don't inherently think that you're wrong about what you're concerned about. I don't think you're wrong about the size of the government and how much we spend. I also think that I watched Bessent on Face the Nation on Sunday, and I thought he was very pragmatic as well. That he just basically said, listen, all spending in Washington got shot through the roof. We didn't get here overnight. They're trying to cut it down in a very practical.
The Korean War was way, way shorter. That is true. I don't know a lot of history around American wars and shit. I was surprised because when I was on that trip in D.C., the Vietnam War, bro, we were there for like fucking, it was like 16 years. Holy shit. I think U.S. involvement was like 16 years or maybe a little longer. That's That's wild. What the fuck? Bruh. Wait.
Bruh.
The Korean War was super, super, super unpopular at the time as well. Was it? I think the Torah person we had for the monuments for Korea, when he came back, or he said that when people came back, people just didn't talk about it at all. That it was like the silent generation, the forgotten generation, the forgotten war. People just don't ever talk about it. I don't know why, but the Korean War was 3 years only and 75 years ago with minimal impact on the US, so nobody cares. Yeah, but I feel like it was a really, really, really good thing, right? Like South Korea's fucking amazing, right? I don't know. Damn. Korea had UN involvement as well, no? No clue, actually. I don't know. I'm not sure. How close South Korea came to losing the war. We'll look at that later, okay? Stop! Don't sidetrack me.
We didn't get here overnight. They're trying to cut it down in a very pragmatic and stable way. And it sounds like you want to just take a machete to the size of government and the spending of government. I can appreciate that. But does the Treasury Secretary have a point?
Well, you're right. Well, you're right. I do want to take a machete to it, but I'm willing to take less big or a big scalpel, if that could be the metaphor. The thing is that the bill doesn't have to have everything in it that I want, but I do want to cut spending. The reason that I can't vote for it is the debt ceiling on there. So if you take the debt ceiling off, you say, are you for the tax cuts? Yes. Are you for spending cuts? Will you vote for it if you don't get everything you want on the spending cuts? Yes. So the thing is, it isn't that I'm objecting to too little spending cuts or to the tax cuts or to the CBO. What I'm objecting to is I do not want to be responsible, and I don't want there to be no conservative opposition to the debt. Raising the debt ceiling $5 trillion implies, and almost always means, we're going to borrow $5 trillion that we don't have in the next 2 years. I'm not for that. That's just not conservative.
I completely understand that. Is there any way to do this, though, without raising the debt ceiling? As it is?
No, the debt ceiling has to go up. The debt ceiling has to go up. So I offered an amendment 2 weeks ago to let the debt ceiling go up $500 billion. That sounds like a lot of money, but that's about...
Damn, that's a significantly lower amount. That got 0 Republican... I don't know. Maybe it got a lot of Republican votes. That's a... They were asking for what, 5 trillion? You're like, how about 500 billion? That's on the scale of Doge's success, right? You guys want 5 trillion? I'll give you 500 billion. Doge was supposed to give us back 2 trillion, and they gave us like 50 billion. So, you know, what's fair is fair.
About 3 months worth of borrowing, because it's literally out of control. Our interest payment is $1 trillion. We borrow over $4 million every minute. We borrow $6 billion a day. So something has to be done. And so I would offer to raise it $500 billion. Everybody says that only lasts us 3 months. Precisely. Come back to me in 3 months. Show me what you've done to the taxpayer. Show me what you've done to the debt. Show me how you're cutting spending, and maybe I'll give you a little more in allowance. I think the debt ceiling should be...
Is this guy like a hard right or more moderate right? You have to be careful when you talk about hard right and moderate right, because over the past few years in the American political system, and maybe even in the whole Western world, the standard single dimensional axis doesn't really work anymore. You kind of have to move to the 2-dimensional one, where you're on the, I don't like to call it libertarian authoritarian thing, and then liberal conservative, but at the very least, like the MAGA party is not really a far right party as far as recent American history is concerned. Far right, as far as recent American history is concerned, is infatuated with things like racism or things like I guess like just like tax cuts and big business and being very hawkish militarily. These are the things that historically, like your Bush era, your neocons are in favor of. But your new kind of like Trump movement is not really as concerned with racism as they are with like nationalism and xenophobia. So whereas a traditional Republican would look at a black man and go, African-American? Hoodlum, slum, get this guy out of here and bring in a good Chinese student or a good Indian worker. The new Trump movement is like, African Americans, these are our American brothers. We love these guys because we have Kanye West. God bless him. And get these Indians and Chinese out of here, right? It's a more xenophobic, nationalistic bend rather than just a racist one. Not to say that there aren't racist elements of the Trump party. Or when it comes to things like big business, right? Neocons love big business, which is why they let a lot of the immigration stuff slide. It's where you got like amnesty from Reagan and I think even maybe a little from Bush came from. And current conservatives are like, big business. We hate big business. We hate big business more than the left hates big business. In fact, they're the ones that like big pharma and big everything else. We hate all of that. So when you look at somebody like Rand Paul, I'm just saying that just to caution you away from, like, Trump is not a far right person in terms of American political rightness, especially when you look at, because hawkishness also kind of characterized the quote unquote far right or the right wing in the United States now. And now they want to be totally isolationist. And all their trade policies are protectionist. And right wingers before would have been like free markets and open markets. So Rand Paul considers himself kind of a libertarian, meaning that he just votes no on everything that doesn't have a tax increase, and he has no political power basically at all. But as the margins are closing in Congress, people like him are a little bit more important because Republicans are trying to pass stuff with 0 Democratic votes. So every vote is kind of important. Yeah.
It'd be like giving a teenager their allowance. And frankly, Congress is less reliable than most teenagers and more profligate in their spending ways than most teenagers. So they should have a very short leash. The president wants the opposite. He doesn't want to think about the debt ceiling. He wants to be done with it. Don't bother me with it. It's making me mad. It's going to bother me, and I don't want to mess with it for 2 years. I would mess with it every day. I would mess with it at the minimum 3 months, 6 months, because it is the leverage that you can use to say, have you done your job? You promised me, not the president. I'm talking about congressional leadership here.
Any thoughts on 80% of sex-selective IVF choices being girls? Heterosexual couples are having a stated preference of girls over boys, and heterosexual couples being more likely to have less children if their first child is a girl. Is that true? If so, based. That's more for us, right? That's good for the incels, right? That's a pretty crazy stat if that's true, though.
Has congressional leadership kept their promise to cut spending? If so, I'll let you borrow a little bit more money. How about 3 more months? But they have not deserved our trust. They are not typically honest about the decisions up here, and so they do not deserve $5 trillion worth of borrowing.
You're in the minority here, though, right, among Republicans. Most of them are ready to vote for the big, beautiful bill as it stands. So how do you hold a line here? How do you win, I guess, is the question.
All it takes is 4 people. Ron Johnson has been pretty loud on TV.
I was going to look up, like, what are the margins, right? So they need to get 4 people to flip. Rand needs 3 friends in Congress, and then it's, those are small margins. Really? Destiny, please look into the America First Committee. You aren't correct about the history of the American far right. This was a committee from the 1940s, my friend. Politics in the world changes pretty frequently. That's why I said like up through like Bush and maybe going as far back as Reagan. But even Reagan era stuff is different, and now we're quite different from Bush era. Anybody trying to make political comparisons between parties or politicians from like 100 years ago or 80 or 50 plus years ago, the world changes way too fast. Those comparisons don't mean much unless you're just engaging in it like curiously. It's not as loud for us as it is for you.
There's a couple more that I think may be coming forward. As they come forward, if 4 of us say we don't want the debt ceiling on it, they'll take it off in a heartbeat. All it takes is 4 of us, and the debt ceiling's gone. All it takes is 4 of us to say we want spending cuts. Ron Johnson's been talking about spending pre-pandemic. That would virtually balance the budget. I don't know if we can get there, but I'm all for it, and I'll stick with them as long as we can. If there's 4 of us, we make it smaller. Why would anybody in the country not be rooting for us to make this, make the debt less onerous, make the spending less? This is what conservatives have always been for. Doesn't mean we're against the president. I'm trying to help the president. He says he wants to balance the budget. I'm trying to help the president.
I'm not against what you're trying to do at all. I don't think anybody watching the show is going to listen to you as you've talked about this for the last couple of days and disagree with you one iota. I can't imagine that they would. I don't know how that they would. I want to change and get you one question really quick on Ukraine before I let you go, Senator. Lindsey Graham and Dick Blumenthal go to Ukraine over the weekend, and then early this week we find Ukraine dramatically escalates the war, and they did a very impressive job dealing a heavy blow inside of Russia. Graham and Blumenthal want heavy sanctions on Russia. What do you think about what has just happened here in the last 48 hours with this war?
I think it's easy to be sympathetic to Ukraine. They've been aggressed against. Their country was invaded. So it's easy, and I am sympathetic to Ukraine. I also am, sympathetic to the carnage and would like the carnage to end. I don't think ultimately Ukraine can push Russia out of their country. Russia's had Crimea since 2014. They've had the Donbass for a couple years now. So I think it's going to be very difficult. But I do want to have peace happen. I would say this on the Graham bill to have more sanctions. It's not really a sanction bill. It's a worldwide tariff bill on anybody who buys oil from Russia or anybody who buys oil from somebody who bought it from Russia. It's a 500% tariff. What would happen if Lindsey Graham bills were to pass would be a worldwide catastrophic depression with all trade ending. It would be a worldwide embargo on trade. It is the most, I don't want to overstate my point. It will be the most ill-conceived bill ever passed.
Also, as a real quick, if you're friends with me on Discord or if somebody can find it in chat, please don't just Google and link the first thing like I'm a retard. Okay, so only if you actually know what you're talking about. Okay, if somebody can give me like a way to do a stock ticker on OBS, so some kind of transparent window or some kind of chroma keyed window that just has like the Tesla stock, I'll add it, okay? But don't just like, oh, I Googled this and link me a random fucking GitHub or whatever.
Passed in the history of Congress. It's a terrible bill. We can't put 500% tariffs on India. The president is talking about having reciprocal lowering of tariffs with India, and I support that. But I don't support a crazy sledgehammer of 500% tariff that can be doubled every 90 days on anybody who buys oil from Russia. Ultimately, if you want peace, you actually do want people to trade with Russia. The moment you get no trade with Russia, perhaps you have a desperate Russia.
Okay, I don't know if we need any more from this.
That expands the war. Same with China. When you have no trade with China, that's when we're going to have the worst things happen. So I think still having trade with adversary nations is a good idea.
Senator Paul, thank you so much. We do.
Okay.
Chaos that gets nothing done for our already stymied system. But I do agree that a $5 trillion raise, the most massive raise we've ever had, to support primarily wealthy tax cuts is insane. It's just insane. It's just not what we need to be doing when we are already spending such a huge chunk of every dollar we raise on interest on our previous debt. He spoke out against it, and then also Ron.
Are there any rich people, even the fucking dick sucks in the tech world? I'm talking about like Chamath and stuff, or Chamath or whatever the fuck. Are any of these guys saying? I'm just trying to think. Somebody link me this. They must be, and I'm not. I don't mean this like, is anybody even saying this? Ha, it can't be happening. I'm legitimately asking because they must be, and I just must miss it. Are there rich people that are saying yes, please, we need more tax cuts, or is it exclusively white trash, meth addicted retards from the Midwest and the South? Are there rich people on these shows that are like, thank you God, Trump, for giving me another tax break on my ordinary income tax or my capital? They must exist, and I just haven't seen it. I'm just curious. If that is anywhere, can you please link it to me just for a fucking sanity check? Jesus.
Ron Johnson spoke out against it.
What's beautiful, Senator, as you see it, and what makes you cover your eyes?
Well, this is my third.
What's your take on the last point? Having trade with adversaries is a good idea. All trade is good. If you're buying shit, it means you want it.
Spoke out against it, and then also Ron Johnson spoke out against it.
What's beautiful, Senator, as you see it, and what makes you cover your eyes?
Well, this is my third column in a series of 3, where I've been pointing out since the first of the year that we need to return to a reasonable pre-pandemic level spending. And I laid out the options. I think this was an extraordinary event pandemic. We went from $4.4 trillion in spending to $7 trillion this year. That's a 58% increase. There's no justification for that. So we have to return to a reasonable pre-pandemic level. I've laid out options somewhere between 5.5 and at most $6.5 trillion, which would imply a whole lot more savings than the meager 1.5 trillion over 10 years, 150 billion at most. By the way, and then we're increasing spending by $342 billion over 4 years. So again, the savings we're talking about in relationship to the $89 trillion we'll be spending over the next 10 years, it's barely rounding it. But at a minimum, we shouldn't be increasing the deficit. And I don't see any scenario that they're discussing right now where we don't actually increase the deficit over 10 years.
Also, I just want to be clear because people mix these numbers up a lot, okay? But you guys are a smarter audience. One of the things I'm going to be finding the most for is we just have to be factual, okay? Because, oh my God, this world is crazy. We have to be factual. We have to be factual, okay? You have your budget, okay? And your budget is your income and your outlays, or your spending, I should say. Fuck, whatever, right? Income, we make $10, and we'll say next year we make $12, and then next year we make $15, okay? Let's say that our first year we spend $20, and then next year we spend $21, and then next year we spend $23, okay? There's a lot of statements that you can make about these numbers that I think a lot of people don't realize. So in the very first year here, our budget deficit, okay, is the difference between our income and our outlays. How much money do we have to borrow from the Treasury to pay our bills? So if we made $10 and we spent $20, that means that we have to borrow $10, okay? So our budget deficit, our shortfall is $10, and now our debt is $10, okay? Next year, our budget deficit decreased. We made $12 and we only spent $21. That means we only have to borrow, okay? We only have to borrow $9, okay? So that means that our deficit decreased. However, our debt increased still because we had to borrow $9. We didn't pay off any of our $10, okay? So our debt was 10, now it's 19. Our budget deficit was 10. Now our budget deficit is only 9. Sorry, fuck, this is the worst handwriting ever. Okay? So even though our deficit decreased, the only way, how do you make the debt go down? What has to happen to the deficit for the debt to decrease? Does anybody know? What has to happen to your Surplus, negative, below zero. Correct. That's right. Yes. And then next year, okay, we make $15, but we spend 23. Okay. Now our our total spending grew, but our income grew even more. Okay. And now our deficit is at record low levels. Here, our deficit is only $8. So look at what happened to our deficit every single year. First, our deficit was $10. Then our deficit was $9. Then our deficit was $8. However, what's happening to our debt? Well, our debt is $27. It's increasing over and over and over again. The only way to decrease the debt is not to decrease the deficit. It's to eliminate the deficit. That deficit is a deficit of money to pay your bills, and you need to turn it into a budget surplus. Surplus meaning you have more than necessary to pay your bills. You have a budget surplus, and that extra money can be spent towards, I don't know if it's mandated to be spent towards it, but it can be spent towards, I think, reducing the debt. Can it be actually? Wait, can you spend money to reduce the debt? I actually don't know if that's true or not. It's not like you can forcibly buy back treasury bonds or something, can you? You wouldn't have to issue new debt at least, right? Oh no, that's how it would decrease the debt. Because as part of your outlays, it's probably servicing the debt and everything else. And then as debt expires, because it expires on a rolling basis, you just wouldn't have to issue more debt. So your debt would decrease because you're not having to take out more, basically. Yeah. Anyway, okay, sorry. But I'm just saying this because when you talk about the deficit is just the difference between your income and your spending, but your debt is always increasing as long as there's a deficit. Okay. All right. And then there's more like derivative numbers that you can get into as well for here, though, that make things, there's just a lot of stories you can tell when you're looking at graphs like this. Okay, so like let's say for here, okay, let's say that something happens where we have a fucking economic resurgence. All right, but we're also spending like more money than like ever before. Okay, so what happens? We double our income. $30 we make, but we spend $35. So we significantly increase our spending as well, from $23 to $35, right? Actually, fuck it. We'll say $41. No, we won't. We won't say $41. That's too much. We'll just say We'll say $31. Fuck it. So we still have a deficit of $1, right? We still have our deficit of $1, right? Because we spent 31, but we made 30, which means our debt is still increasing, right? Our debt is still increasing, right? So one question you might ask about this, right? If we're looking at this chart, when do we have the highest debt? When is our debt the highest here? What would you guess? In year 1, we made 10, spent 20. Our budget deficit was 10, and our debt was 10. Year 2, we made 12. We spent 21. Our budget deficit was 9, so our deficit went down, but our debt increased to 19. On year 3, we made 15, spent 23. Our budget deficit decreased again to only $8, but we still had to borrow it. Now our debt is 27. And then in year 4, we made $30. We spent 31, so we had to borrow $1. And now our debt is 28, right? We could say that, like, what do we feel like is our biggest debt, right? It could be, well, $28 is our biggest debt, but maybe like when we're thinking about our debt, it's also nice to think about like how much money we're making. So on the first year, we made $10 and we owe $10. That's our total debt by the end. Year 2, we made $12 and our total debt is $19, right? So as a percentage of GDP, it's significantly higher than year 1. In year 3, I don't know the math off the top of my head, but it might be even higher in year 3. $27 of debt to $15 of income, it's almost twice as high. It's almost 200% of our income, of our GDP. In year 4, the debt is higher, it's $28, but for the first time, the debt is actually less than our overall GDP. This is why I say one of the ways that you can deal with the debt is by increasing your income, right? Or increasing the size of your economy. And it's one of the reasons why economic contraction is bad for your debt, because it means the debt that you owe is technically higher as a percentage of your GDP, which is going to play into your ability to raise money, because taxes are usually based off of the health of your economy. The better the economy is doing, the more money people are making, the more goods and services are being sold, so the more taxes and everything, right? These are all just like different things to think about this. Sorry, okay. You all understanding this? Okay. It's just ways to think about all the debt, the deficit, how it plays into your GDP, what it means to have a, high deficit or high debt or any of that. Okay, sorry.
In relationship to the $89 trillion we'll be spending over the next 10 years, it's barely rounding it. But at a minimum, we shouldn't be increasing the deficit. And I don't see any scenario that they're discussing right now where we don't actually increase the deficit over 10 years.
I always want to say I appreciate...
What does inflation do to the debt? Inflation is generally beneficial to debt holders, and it's generally detrimental to creditors. So inflation means that you're technically lowering the value of the currency. And if you have a debt and that debt is denominated in a currency that's inflating, then inflation helps your ability to pay off your prior debt, because the money that you've borrowed is now worth less, right?
And I don't see any scenario that they're discussing right now where we don't actually increase the deficit over 10 years.
I always want to say I appreciate both these people saying this, because it is at least not lying to my face. It is really annoying, as I've been watching these clips, to have someone like Speaker of the House Mike Johnson come out on a clip and just tell me...
Johnson, it will just lie. Same thing with Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller and Mike Johnson are just lying and lying and lying. I should know where this guy's from. It's not Texas, is it? Ballotpedia. God, I hate this fucking guy. Wait, is it Louisiana? Is this the guy I'm thinking of? Yeah, Speaker of the House. Wait, he's Speaker of the House, right? Yes. Okay, is Louisiana District 4. This guy's fucking evil. But him and Stephen Miller just lie. And they play number games to try to trick you into thinking that the bill is actually good for the debt or good for the deficit when it's bullshit. I see all the crazy Trump posts. We'll get to him, okay? We're just building background for it, okay?
As I've been watching these clips, to have someone like Speaker of the House Mike Johnson come out on a clip and just tell me this doesn't increase the deficit. To just tell me that it does, like, you can just read it. We just know that it does do that. And by the way, as someone who was critical of this during Biden's administration, when again, we were spending $1 trillion of deficit every 100 days in 2024 into the election. We are now spending more than that. Trump has taken that insane 24 deficit and gone up. We're just going towards the wall. And so I appreciate at least these two voices on the Republican side who are getting a lot of pressure from Trump and their constituents to silence themselves, speaking out and saying this makes no sense for what we ran on, for any sort of like fiscal conservatism. That led to this, which was a tweet from Donald J. Trump saying Rand Paul has very little understanding of the big beautiful bill, especially the tremendous growth that is coming. He loves voting no on everything. He thinks it's good politics, but it's not. The BBB is a big winner.
It's technically true. I think Ron Paul did the same. They just vote no on every single thing that is like a tax or military increase, which is funny, but
15 hours ago, Trump said, again, Rand votes no on everything, but never has any practical conservative ideas. His ideas are crazy, losers. The people of Kentucky can't stand him. This is a big growth bill. But he hasn't commented on Ron Johnson or Elon, both standing up against saying this bill is extremely damaging. This does mean that there's...
Now, he said Trump hasn't commented on him yet, but remember, this is just yesterday, so we're catching up.
Going to be a rift, I think, in the sort of MAGA right and tech right handshake alliance that existed primarily through Elon Musk being the bridge. I wonder what like the All In podcast is going to say now that their two greatest heroes, Trump and Elon, disagree. I wonder how they're going to handle this big, beautiful bill. The girls are indeed fighting. And I just can't stress enough how much I think this bill sucks ass. Very, very simply, it is like massive tax cuts. Half of that is funded by cutting Medicaid for poor people. And then the other half is just not funded. That's the deficit. This much savings through cutting healthcare, and then huge more spending from cutting taxes. And the difference is we borrow it. It's easy to hate the rich, but do you have the courage to hate the poor? That is in fire. The answer is yes. Every chatter or...
Wait, that was a... What was that? That was a based quote. What the
And huge more spending from cutting taxes. And the difference is we borrow it. It's easy to hate the rich, but do you have the courage to hate the poor? That is in fire. The answer is yes. Every chatter or comment I've ever crashed out on. I've hated many poor people. Imagine saving the government $100 billion for them to increase spending by $5 trillion. Yeah, I mean, that $100 billion is even exaggerated, but you know, it's very obvious. I don't know if Elon wasn't aware of this. It seems obvious that he would be, but maybe he's that clueless that...
Being so concerned about spending and running deficits seems like it lends credit to the idea that monetary inflation is all that matters. It seems like it would, but the issue is that in practice, it seems like it betrays that idea, because everybody says they're so hyper concerned about the deficit and the debt, and they do nothing about it, and the economy is still chugging along, and it was the world leader. But
the Doge thing was a song and dance show to give cloud cover to do these massive tax cuts and spending increases. Doge was not ever taken seriously. It was not real, and they weren't ever going to actually cut anything real. And so all they did was cut some ideological.
There it is. Now, to be fair, I don't think A-Track, I don't know if he was ever on a different page for that, but correct.
Stuff for chump change and made no real impact on actual spending. And again, it was only supposed to last a year and it only lasted 4 months. They cut both the leaders by the first 4 months. It's a failure on every front. And at least Elon is stepping up, because a few days ago he said,
it's not like I agree with everything the administration does. So it's like we have differences of opinion. I don't want to speak up against the administration, but I don't want to take responsibility for everything the administration is doing. It's not like
what a change of heart, dude, from just a few months ago. So I thought this was his position. I thought he was gonna be like kind of slinking off into the sunset and like licking his wounds and going back to the companies and not talking shit on anything. But after this, I guess he changed his mind, had some ketamine, woke the f up and spoke out and said, yeah, this bill sucks. So at least respect that, because I thought he was gonna do this. I thought this was gonna be this is only like a day or two before. We'll see what the long-term repercussions are. I wonder how Trump will respond when asked about it by tomorrow. My greatest hope is that somehow this Elon thing breaks the support for the bill and it doesn't make it to the Senate and it gets stopped. That would be awesome. What do you think Scott Bessent's stance on the big beautiful bill though? Almost everybody who worked with Scott Bessent prior to him joining the Trump administration says really good things about him. He's a very smart guy. I've listened to his speeches before he was part of this administration. Very smart guy. Why we have to get spending under control. Clearly articulated paths of America to do that. In the administration, he has really just repeated what Trump says verbatim. Now, I don't know if that's what you have to do to get any influence in there, but it's hard to know what he's thinking because all he does is trot out on TV and say exactly what the party line is. Now, my understanding is that he, behind the scenes, has done some things to walk back the tariffs, has done some things to reduce some of the most insane chaos, has done some things to try and calm the bond market so that we don't have a banking crisis. But he also might have punched Elon in the face, which is pretty cool. But I really can't give a thumbs up or thumbs down to Scott Bessent.
Bessent is supposed to be the only person who's sane in that cabinet, is what I've heard said over and over again. I don't know how true that is, but it's supposed to be. Yeah, because debt crisis has never happened before, Destiny, like how it created the U.S. I've never heard that theory before, that the debt crisis created the U.S., but okay.
So far until something happens. And right now, again, I'm thinking of one of these finance substacks I was reading, but he was like, listen, I've worked with Scott Bessent. He's a smart guy, but right now it looks like he's driving the country towards a cliff. And Scott Bessent, again, is one of the people that'll walk out and be like, well, this bill is going to reduce the deficit. And it's like, it's just not. Wasn't he better than two options? Yes, I don't, not like it mattered. It wasn't like Trump was listening to my stream. But I like campaigned a bit for Scott Bessent because the other option was Howard Lutnick, who is a used car salesman level of grift and stupid. How can your message of reducing spending be marketable for political normies? How would you convince people that reducing spending is the biggest light item, is a good thing when going to specifics? Yeah, I've been thinking about this. This is my main argument. Let me see if I can make it real simple.
Hold on.
Used car salesman level of grift and stupid. How can your message of reducing spending be marketable for political normies? How would you convince people that reducing spending is the biggest light item, is a good thing?
How can your message of reducing spending be marketable for political normies? How would you convince people that reducing spending is the biggest line item? In the biggest line items, it's a good thing while going into specifics.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this.
Well, the answer is it would require you to actually have an honest conversation about the debt and have an honest conversation about our spending. But this is the issue, and this is why I argued with that Kaizen guy. No, it's not good. No, we're not finally talking about this thing. We're not finally having conversations about the debt. We're continuing to obfuscate, and we're continuing to not have conversations about it because we're lying to ourselves, pretending that we are, by having these ridiculous conversations about whatever tariffs and all this other bullshit where no one knows. No one is actually doing the things that need to be done to actually reduce the debt.
My main argument. Let me see if I can make it real simple. So we know that the main things that the government spends money on are Medicare, Medicaid, basically healthcare for old people and poor people, Social Security, which is money for old people, military, interest payments, and one more thing, subscriptions. Subscriptions make up 85% of the government budget. That's why we need Rocket Money. Thank you to Rocket Money for sponsoring this clip. Rocket
Money. Make sure to get your biggest A-Track subscriptions at destiny.gg/merch and destiny.gg/subscriptions.
Money is an app that you link your bank account to, and it shows you every recurring subscription that you have that's being siphoned out of your account. Whether it's a gym you signed up for that you forgot to go to, whether it's a news website you signed up for, whether it's a Netflix or Hulu or anything. Any subscription where it's recurring taking money out of your account, it flags it for you, it shows you, and you can easily one-click cancel it right from the app. Rocket Money's been a long-time partner of me, Marketing Monday, my content. I appreciate the support. It's an app I've actually used for years since it was called Truebill. It also has an incredible budget management feature where you can set aside money to plan for something upcoming you want to spend. It categorizes your spending. It's basically the best all-in-one finance app, especially for people in a modern digital economy, millennials, Gen Z. Like it's useful. And I highly recommend it. I want to thank Rocket Money for sponsoring this clip. And if the American government just opened Rocket Money and cut some of our useless spending, we could get towards balance. Now, the actual answer to your question is this. Of these four, you can't do anything about this one. And cutting Medicaid especially is pretty cruel in any way. So here's what you can do. One thing you might know, actually, Social Security, won't even cut that. Let's look at these two specifically, Medicare and military. Now, what's unique about these is that they take government tax money and then go through very, 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 very price gouging middlemen. Medicare goes to drug companies and military goes through like military contractors. These companies have an incentive to overcharge as much as humanly possible to milk us dry, not in the good way. So you have like, for example, like a Northrop Grumman, or you have have a Pfizer in the middle here who is, just charging absurd amounts overpriced. Again, Americans pay more for prescription drugs, significantly more.
Just as a heads up, that's not true for the military stuff. It's not true for pharmaceutical stuff. People will charge as much as they can, but as long as there are multiple people competing for a contract, they have to push the price down as much as possible because the government is picking the best contract. So it's not really true. It's kind of, in a way, it's kind of the opposite. This is why people always joke about when it says like military grade. When it says like military grade, people will talk about how it's whoever was the lowest bidder, right? Although this is true of everything, that there are contracts that there are bids on, right? This is how markets work, but it's whatever.
More than every other nation on earth. And we do the same with military contractors. Finding a way to increase the government's negotiating power, like for example, in Medicare, we're legally not allowed to negotiate. We should be allowed to negotiate to drive the prices.
That is true. That's really stupid, but whatever.
Down. Or internal capabilities, in the case of the military, would be a way to massively cut the amount we are spending here to get even the same results, but for way, way, way less money. So these are the two areas I'd focus on first and foremost. I think this would be the primary areas. If I was trying to do like a Doge type thing, and this is a big thorny problem, and you're fighting entrenched interests, but this is what you have to tackle. To make any real difference, I would look at these two primarily. Then I think it's worth saying that...
Is there a percentage of budget going to interest payments that scare you? Rent is at 40%, more than 20 just feels crazy. I don't know. I'm sure there's some number that's too high. I don't know what the number is.
Social Security right now is only delivered on the basis of age. So Social Security goes to old people regardless of their financial situation. The truth is Social Security should probably only go to those who are under a certain income. It should be means tested. The idea is that it's a safety net retirement program for old people. If you are...
Personally, I'm okay with that. Maybe. I don't know if that is within the spirit of Social Security, though. Social Security is supposed to be like, that is your pension from the government, kind of. You pay into it and then you withdraw from it. It's like in a way, it's like a government savings account. I don't think I'd be opposed in practice to doing something about that. And like, just if you make over a certain amount of money, you just don't get Social Security, but I don't know if Americans would be okay with it. I'm not sure.
Or a wealthy old person, you should not be getting Social Security benefits. I'm sorry, but it doesn't make sense. We already have a lot of wealth concentrated.
Shouldn't you know that number before you say whether our current debt is good or bad? I don't think I'd take a position on the current debt. The position I have right now is that we're not talking about the debt. We're not having real conversations about the debt. My guess is going to be reducing the debt would probably be good. When the economy is running well, you should probably run your government leaner. So do things to reduce your debt. And when the economy is doing poorly, then you stimulate your economy. This is why I said in the beginning, Trump was always going to be bad for the debt, because when Trump came in to a hot economy, 2016, he ran a debt. He shouldn't have run a debt or a deficit. And he increased the deficits. He was running historically high deficits before COVID. There was no reason for that. The economy was going well.
Wealthy old person, you should not be getting Social Security benefits. I'm sorry, but it doesn't make sense. We already have a lot of wealth concentrated in the elderly. And the fact that a lot of us are paying taxes to distribute even more to the elderly is crazy. Now, obviously, if someone is poor and elderly, then of course, Social Security should not be cut for them. Additionally, easy thing you can do, if you're looking only to balance the budget, not to cut spending, is you can raise the Social Security cap, which says that you don't get taxed on it for above 50K of income. Somebody very wealthy pays the same amount of Social Security that someone very poor does. Someone like
You can remove the cap on Social Security. That would be just a dramatically huge, insanely high tax increase. I don't know about that. You could raise the cap maybe if you want, but the problem is I think money that's paid into Social Security basically only goes into that fund. I think it would be better to just raise the ordinary federal income tax, even your top brackets, rather than just lifting the cap on the Social Security tax. I think that gets weird for a few reasons. I wouldn't be the most opposed to it, but
Jeff Bezos or Elon should be paying more to Social Security, obviously. Now, it's politically unpalatable. It's like impossible to get past because they vote in great numbers, but that would be the ideal if we try to get towards balance. Try to find what should we actually be spending money on that is worthwhile and useful. And then finally, it's worth noting that I am now officially a television news pundit because they put my ass on MSNBC today. I got texted about this by like 14 people.
Why does that seem like regressive taxes so much? How does increasing your marginal rates on a progressive tax system for your income, how is that a regressive tax? The fuck are you talking about? If you make over 165K, you don't pay Social Security on the marginal dollar earned. Why is that good? Because the amount that you get out of Social Security is capped. You can only ever there's a maximum payout from Social Security, which is why there's a maximum income cap for what you can get taxed on to pay into it.
On economic policy for the White House and have guided the president to enact stiff tariffs on all foreign goods. Is this a good idea? Yes, it's absolutely brilliant. That's it. They just threw in a big A clip about me talking about ChatGPT.
Social Security's tax is regressive. So is sales and VAT tax. Social Security tax is not regressive. It's a flat tax, up to the cap at least, which is like what, probably 80, 90, probably 90% of income earners in the U.S. Sales and VAT are arguably regressive, sure, but not every regressive tax is bad.
Glazing on MSNBC. This happened today. It's awesome. It says youtube.com/atriotclips. Anyway, my lawyers will be in touch. They stole my shit. Me and Adish don't appreciate getting our content stolen without compensation.
Social Security payouts are based on earnings, not contributions. Aren't your contributions based on your earnings?
I demand $1 million in reparations.
Okay. Wait, does he actually not know that flat taxes are regressive? If you're going to call flat taxes regressive, you're just retarded. Please get the fuck out of my community. Please leave. Please leave. Please leave. Please, 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 please leave. Please get the fuck out. I don't want you here. You're not the type of person I want to talk to. There are so many better communities for you. Please get the fuck out of here. Holy shit, just leave. Oh my God.